You hear it all the time, right? AI is changing the world. But what if the biggest changes, the real risks, aren't some single Big Bang event? What if they're more like a ripple in a pond, starting small with just one person, but getting wider and wider until it impacts the very systems that run our society? So today, let's trace that ripple effect, from the personal to the systemic.
I mean, just think about that for a second. It's not science fiction anymore. This is happening right now. The first tiny ripple of AI risk is deeply, deeply personal. It's that moment when an automated decision, one made in a blink of an eye, completely changes the course of your life. And to really get how that works, we all need to be on the same page about one key term.
So an algorithm is basically just a recipe, a set of rules a computer follows. But here's the thing. The problem isn't the recipe itself, it's the ingredients we feed it. If you feed an AI a long history of biased human decisions, well, guess what? It learns to be biased too. The only difference is it does it way faster, at a massive scale, and with the sheen of what experts call algorithmic authority. It's this powerful idea where we just assume that because a decision came from a machine, it has to be objective, right? It has to be fair. But as we're about to see, that is a really dangerous assumption.
And that brings us right to that first and maybe most intimate stage of the ripple effect, the direct, real-world harm to people like you and me when these automated systems get it wrong. What's so wild is that this is not a new problem. Not at all. This slide here shows two examples decades apart that tell the exact same story. All the way back in the 80s, an algorithm at a hospital in the UK learned from old admissions data, and surprise, surprise, it started rejecting qualified women and minority applicants. Fast forward to today, and a super sophisticated US healthcare algorithm basically did the same thing. It was designed to predict health costs, not actual health needs. And because of that, it ended up recommending less care for Black patients who were demonstrably sicker than their white counterparts. The technology got fancier, but the biased, harmful outcome, it stayed the same.
But this personal harm, it goes way beyond just biased decisions. Sometimes it's a direct, vicious attack. This is a quote from Noelle Martin, an Australian activist who discovered her face had been digitally grafted onto pornographic videos. This wasn't just about embarrassment. She described it as a weapon, plain and simple, designed to silence her. It affected her reputation, her relationships, her ability to even get a job.
And Noelle's story, it is tragically, terrifyingly common. Research shows that a staggering 90 to 95% of all deepfake videos online are non-consensual pornography, and the overwhelming majority of the victims are women. It is by far the most common, and I'd argue most violating use of this technology today.
So the ripple starts with hurting one person, but it never stops there. It keeps spreading. Let's look at that next wave. What happens when AI-driven deception starts to eat away at the very trust that holds our society together?
Just look at this timeline. It shows how unbelievably fast this threat has grown. In just a handful of years, the tech needed to create convincing fake media went from being a really niche, expert skill to something you can literally do on your smartphone. The timeline just shows this rocket-like acceleration, from kind of clumsy doctored videos to those hyper-realistic Tom Cruise fakes you've seen on TikTok. The barrier to creating believable lies is just completely collapsed.
And that creates this incredibly dangerous paradox. It's called the liar's dividend. And honestly, this might be the biggest threat of all. It's not just that you might believe a fake video, it's that you'll stop believing the real ones. The next time a politician gets caught on a hot mic saying something awful, they can just turn around and say, no, that's a deepfake. The very existence of this technology gives a free pass to actual liars, and it poisons everything.
And as you can see here, this kind of deception could be weaponized in so many ways. I mean, imagine a fake audio clip of a CEO admitting to fraud, released an hour before the stock market opens. Total chaos. Or a fabricated video of a police officer making racist remarks, dropped into a city that's already a tinderbox of tension. These aren't just pranks. They are powerful tools for destabilizing markets, for shattering democracies, and for threatening public safety.
And that brings us to the final and the largest ripple. The systemic threat. This is the point where AI doesn't just fool us or hurt us one by one. This is where it starts to build the very infrastructure of a world that is less free and less secure for everyone. Okay, let's start with a risk that's almost completely hidden from view, the actual code that runs our world. More and more of the software we depend on, for everything from banking to hospitals, is being written by AI. And what this diagram shows is how these AIs are often trained on huge libraries of human-written code scraped from the internet. code that's already full of bugs and security holes. The AI learns from our mistakes and then reproduces them over and over, creating this dangerous feedback loop that bakes vulnerabilities deep inside our most critical digital systems.
And we're not talking about a minor problem here. One study found that on average, a shocking 48%, almost half, of the code snippets generated by 5 of the top AI models had bugs in them. We are automating the process of creating flawed, hackable software at a scale we've never seen before.
So beyond the invisible threat in the code, there's the very, very visible threat, the cage. All around the world, authoritarian governments are jumping on AI as the ultimate tool for mass control. We're talking about massive networks of facial recognition cameras that track citizens everywhere they go, identifying them, watching who they meet with, and creating a whole new architecture of automated social control.
This quote from an expert analysis really just hits the nail on the head. AI surveillance fundamentally changes the balance of power between the state and the citizen. It makes it incredibly cheap for a government to watch everyone, all the time, while making it nearly impossible for those same citizens to organize against that government. It is quite literally automating the tools of oppression.
So, okay, if these are the ripples of risk, personal, societal, and systemic, it all sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? The question then becomes, what do we do about it? How do we stop the wave before it crashes?
Well, for a specific threat like deepfakes, experts propose a defense in layers. We can step in at every single stage of an attack. We can create real legal consequences to deter people from making them in the first place. We can build technology to watermark or sign real media. We can force social media platforms to get way better at detecting and removing fakes. And finally, and this is a big one, we can educate ourselves and build up our own societal resilience through media literacy.
And if you zoom out, these same ideas apply to all the AI risks we've covered. There's no single silver bullet. It has to be a combination of things. Smart regulation from governments, radical transparency from the tech companies so we can actually look inside the black box, making sure that teams building this stuff actually reflect the diverse world we live in, and of course, a massive ongoing investment in public education.
You know, in the end, AI is basically just a mirror. It takes in our data, our history, our biases, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it reflects it right back at us, but amplified and at an incredible scale. So the most important question we can ask isn't really about the technology. It's about us. When we're forced to look into that mirror, what choices are we going to make to build a future that's more secure, more fair, and more true?